thank you again for the invitation to attend this retreat. I thank the OMF and Dr. Harper for making me a part of this. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. So I was asked to present some of the trials that we were involved in regards to uveal melanoma at Mount Sinai Cancer Center, the trials that were previously involved and have been completed, current trials, and trials that we're planning on opening within the next several months. So here is a list. As you see, the recently completed trials. There was a phase 1 of an immunotherapy drug, a PD-L1 drug that included several patients with uveal melanoma, the durvalumab. We participated with Columbia University and Dr. Carvajal and other investigators in a phase 2 of this drug called selumetinib, which is a MEK inhibitor, and compared to a treatment with DTIC and temozolomide, which are chemotherapy drugs that have been used not only for uveal melanoma, but also for cutaneous melanoma. Unfortunately, not a very effective treatment. And that trial plus some additional data led to a large global trial trying to investigate if the combination of this drug, selumetinib, combined with the more traditional drug DTIC was better than the DTIC alone. And we also participated in a cooperative group trial with a drug that's called multi-targeted molecular targeted therapy with a drug called cabozantinib, again compared with is sort of very weak standard DTIC or temozolomide. All these trials have been completed. Currently, we have opened an adjuvant trial. Again, adjuvant is treatment that is given to patients that are high risk in an attempt to prevent a recurrence, and this would include patients with class 2. And that's a trial, it's a phase 2 trial, so everyone gets treated with the drug, utilizing a drug called crizotinib. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next few slides. And that's a trial, again, from Dr. Carvajal at Columbia with 3 or 4 other institutions in the country. And for metastatic disease, we are going to be opening in the next few months a randomized trial of this new T-cell redirector that is currently being investigated in phase 2 trials in a few centers in the country. And I'm sure you're going to hear about that. I think Dr. Sato's institution is involved. Yeah, I'm not sure if MD Anderson is involved as well, but certainly we're going to hear a lot more from Dr. Acquavella, who's going to expand on new immunotherapies. And then another trial that will include patients with uveal melanoma, a drug called ibrutinib in combination with pembrolizumab. So let me move on. So this is the phase 1 trial that I mentioned to you before that included 6 patients with uveal melanoma that you see in, I guess it's yellow, orange. You can see there were assessed 6 patients. So several of those patients were on treatment for several weeks. And unfortunately, I cannot give you a follow-up on that since the data was presented at ASCO a couple of years ago. I know that we had 2 of those patients, and one of those patients seemed to have some benefit, but eventually relapsed, and the other patient did not benefit. So there's a lot more to be said about immunotherapy, different combinations, and again, as I mentioned, Dr. Acquavella will probably fill you in with that. And these are the results of that trial with selumetinib, that drug that's again targeted against MEK1 or MEK2, but in this case is targeting the entire what we call the MAP kinase pathway, which is important in uveal melanoma. And here we see, you see on the bottom that in the patients that received selumetinib, the new drug, there was a response of 15% compared to no response in the group that received temozolomide or DTIC, and tumor regression, which is different from response. What we call response is a very specific amount of tumor regression. But patients that had tumor regression that did not reach amount were also more predominant in the group that received the selumetinib. And here we're looking at progression-free survival, which means the time that patients were alive without the disease coming back, and that seemed to be superior in the group that received the selumetinib. So with these data and some other data from trials that we didn't participate in, suggested that maybe this drug would be interesting to evaluate in combination with temozolomide. And that's what this trial was all about. Very big effort, global trial, and patients received either what had been considered the standard DTIC combined with a placebo, or DTIC combined with a new drug. And these data were recently released, and unfortunately the progression-free survival was not superior, but we still do not have the data on survival on this. It's still looking for that. There was a numerical suggestion, but it was not statistically significant. And this is a trial that I mentioned that participated cabozantinib. Patients received either cabozantinib, which was a new drug, in a 2-to-1 randomization, means there was a higher chance of getting the new drug compared to the more standard temozolomide or DTIC. Unfortunately, this trial was stopped because it didn't accrue quickly enough, but there are enough patients, I think, in the trial that maybe we'll be able to see some results pretty soon. And moving on to the current trial that we're participating in for patients that are at high risk. On the left, you see all these different factors that make patients high risk. And the most important one, as you can see in the panel on the right, lower panel, is the class 1 versus class 2. And on the right, and I don't think you can see this very well, is some mouse data that suggests that patients that have been treated with this drug, crizotinib, have a lower development of metastatic disease. And if you see on the panel on the right, anyway, take my word for it, it does suggest that. And this is the basis for this trial. And here, the objective of this trial is to see if patients taking this drug have a real metastatic development of metastatic disease that appears to be superior what we have seen historically. We will not know for sure because this is not a randomized trial. This is an exploratory phase 2 trial. There is also the intent of looking at overall survival of these patients, and also to see how safe this drug is in the setting, in the preventative setting. This is a drug that is approved already for the treatment of certain types of lung cancer. So we do have a lot of safety information about this drug. And there will be also a number of correlative studies trying to understand the biology and the science in these patients. So here are the important criteria. I put red asterisks in the ones that are most important. First, the melanoma has to have at least 12 millimeters in diameter. And second, they have to be class 2 by any gene expression profile, primarily the decision DXUM, which is the most used assay, as has been described before. So obviously you should not have history of metastatic disease because that's what we're trying to prevent to begin with, and no other major medical issues. So the drug is given twice a day, a dose of 250 milligrams twice a day, and there are 3 phases. There is the initial active treatment phase, which goes on for a year. Patients are seen every week, and they get scans every 3 months, and then patients are followed closely after that 1-year period of treatment. And we are monitoring for distant recurrence, which is the main objective of this trial. So, and this is jumping on to a trial that we hope to be opening soon. This is what was mentioned before by several of the previous speakers, this T-cell redirectors. And what this molecule is one side of the molecule, the top side that you see there that says targeting system, that part of the molecule has very high affinity. It really likes to find certain types of antigens. In this case, it's a GP100, which is present in patients with melanoma. Only patients that are born, I should say, with a specific type of immune makeup called HLA-A2 are candidates for this trial, because in only those patients this antigen can be recognized. So this molecule is given and binds to the tumor cells, and the other side of the molecule that you see there says effector actually brings T cells that may be able to kill the tumor to that site. So here you see a little bit of a cartoon. On the top left panel, you see the cancer cell on the left, the T cell, which is the cell that will kill the tumors, on the right, and this molecule that's hanging on to these GP100 molecules on the cancer cells. And as the T cells pass by, they get hooked on to that molecule and creates a bridge and activates the T cell, and that eventually kills the cell. And there's not a whole lot of published data on this, and right now there are ongoing phase 2 trials trying to understand a little bit more about the safety and the efficacy of this, but it looks promising. These are 5 patients from a larger trial, different types of melanoma. These are the 5 UVEAL melanoma patients, and the bars that are below 0 reflect the amount of decrease in the tumor amount of these patients. The bars that are above the line is the amount of tumor that grew above baseline. So 3 out of 5 patients seem to have some benefit. Again, this is being investigated, and we'll have a lot more data on this soon enough, but I expect the randomized trial to start within the next several months. And that will be a randomization of patients that have this HLA-A2 and have metastatic disease to receive either this product or a standard therapy. And this is the last trial that we were hoping to have open now, but we ran into some issues obtaining the drug ibrutinib. Ibrutinib is a drug that is used for CLL. It is approved for chronic lymphocytic leukemia. But it turns out that there are several animal models that suggest that it can actually modulate the activity of pembrolizumab. Pembrolizumab, as you may or may not know, is a drug called Keytruda, a very active immunotherapy drug. But it doesn't work in some patients, and there is the possibility that the combination may allow Keytruda to work better. So in this trial, there are 2 phases, the phase 1 and the phase 2, and we will allow patients with uveal melanoma to go on this. And that's what I have to talk about. I guess I'll pass this on to Dr. Fung. Thank you.